Yeah, that's gonna work. Perfect. Okay, great. So I can go.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Corey Naftley. I'm the lead engagement audit partner in charge of the audit for the District of Tumbler Ridge. And I'm here to take you through the presentation of the financial statements. So I've prepared this slideshow, so a little bit of an agenda. I'll discuss our audit report that we anticipate issuing. We'll go through the financial statements and then just a few slides with respect to the surplus. So our audit report, so we do anticipate issuing a clean audit report in respect to the consolidated financial statements in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. It is currently in draft because obviously those with oversight need to approve those financial statements before we issue our final audit report, but we haven't run into any issues and we do anticipate issuing a clean audit report, which means that we feel the financial statements are materially correct. So we'll take you through the financial assets. So in total, the financial assets as of December 31st, 2017 have stayed relatively consistent at $29.6 million. And you can see really a small change in terms of the makeup, a decrease in the cash balance by about $1 million, and then an increase in the investment in the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest by about $1 million. And the increase in the investment in the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest really represents the net income that it earned during the year ended December 31st, 2017. The decrease in cash you'll see through the operations, how that cash was spent during the year. Flipping over to the liabilities. So as of December 31st, these are the financial liabilities of the district. So the total liabilities were $3.2 million, which was an increase from $2.6 million in the previous year. And you can see the main items that have increased year over year represented by deferred revenue of $331,000, which really represents federal government grants that had been received by the district, but the spending for those projects had not happened and it was expected to happen in 2018. The other item that's increased represents deposits and holdbacks, which is cash that's currently being held by the district for the Site 18 project. So that's what represents the increase there. So when you take the total financial assets less those total financial liabilities, $3.2 million, you get net financial assets at the end of December 31st of $2.6 million. So our non-financial assets, so these are the items that we don't anticipate to be settled for cash, are represented by the tangible capital assets, such as the roads, the sewers, the buildings, the trucks that are owned by the district. That balance is $55.5 million at the end of December 31st, compared to $51.2 million, as there's been significant asset additions during the year. The asset additions were $7.1 million, offset by depreciation of $2.8 million and disposals of $1.4 million. And the additions for the year were really spread across all asset classes, including equipment, vehicles, buildings, engineered structures, etc., etc. Inventories have stayed relatively consistent, as well as prepaid expenses, which are expenses paid for the future years. So total non-financial assets were $55.6 million compared to $51.3 million in 2016. When we look at the operations for the year ended December 31st, 2017, we've got the budget on the left-hand side, the actual in the middle, and the actual for the previous year on the right. So total revenue was in line with budget of $16 million. Expenses, you can see, are $12.4 million in excess of budget, and consistent with last year, an increase of $400,000. The main difference from budget is that the amortization of $2.8 million was not included in the budget for the year. So once we include that, which is really an accounting entry and a non-cash item, it really adjusts that expense line item to make it more consistent with the budget that was anticipated by council. So the surplus is $3.6 million for the year, compared to surplus in 2016 of $4.8 million. When we look at the sources of the revenue for the year, we see that the budget again on the left, the actual in the middle, and prior year on the right. So all items came in quite consistent with budget. You can see the government transfers line of 4.1 was budgeted. So there were a couple grants that were budgeted for, which include the Peace River Agreement and the New Money Sewer Grant, which were not received during the year. So that's why that number is less than what was anticipated. Water and sewer, sale of services, and then the other increase is that other revenue, which represents the equity pickup from the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest, which was approximately $1 million. So total revenue for the year was $16 million, consistent with the budgeted revenue for the year. We flip the page to the expenses, so these were the outflows for the year. You can see all items really consistent with budget. Compared, the only item that was different from budget was that amortization line item, so $2.8 million, which really is a non-cash item and represents the depreciation of the physical assets owned by the district. So total expenses were $12.4 million, in line with last year of $12 million. We look at the surplus, so this is a continuity year over year of the surplus. So we had an annual surplus of the year of $3.6 million, and we add that to the accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year of $78.4 million, giving an accumulated surplus at the end of the year of $82 million. Now it's important to note, as we flip on to the next slide, that a large majority, the majority of that surplus is invested in tangible capital assets, so $55 million of that $82 million is invested in capital assets. There are operating funds of $19.8 million as of December 31st, giving total surplus of $74 million, and then the balance that makes up the additional 7 would be represented by the reserve funds, which I'll present on the next few slides. So this is a breakdown of the reserve funds as of December 31st, 2017. So really the main notable changes for the year are in the equipment replacement fund. So there are 2 front-end loaders, 1 solid waste truck, 2 plow trucks, and 6 pickups purchased out of the equipment replacement reserve during the year, generating that decrease of just over $1 million. And then when we get to the next page, we see the other significant decrease in the general fund, $1.8 million, and that really represents significant paving projects that were done during the year by the district. So the total reserve fund decreased from $10.7 million at the end of last year to $7.9 million at the end of this year. On the next slide, we've got a bunch of notes and financial statements. So this presentation really is a condensed version of the full set of financial statements. All of these notes are fairly consistent with the previous year and just represent additional detail for the financial statements. There have been no accounting changes that I'd like to highlight at this time. I don't take any questions.
That's the one we.
Yeah, I'm still confused on something here, so. Right. So back to that question on amortization, adding back the amortization again.
Yep.
So
When I look at our,
tonight we're gonna do our
finish up our financial plan. So if you go, do you have our agenda with you tonight?
I had it up here. Right.
If you just go to page 24 of our agenda, this is the part that
I don't understand.
we're making a decision on something and we're not expecting.
Expecting $2 million to not be there.
Page 24 of the agenda. And you'll see our 2017 budget is on this, and it says the total functions of the is $11 million.
Yeah.
Whereas
In the financials here, we have $9.6 million. So general government services shows $2 million in the audit that you present.
Yeah.
But we have our general government services.
is $4 million. Is that
The difference in
So there's actually, so the main difference that reconciles, and it's in note 15 of the financial statements.
Okay.
So the main difference within the budget are those site ET costs that are currently flowing through the district, and in the budget, they're flowing in and out of revenue and expense. And we've adjusted that to conform with the presentation because it's really not an activity of the district, so we pulled that out.
So that's part of the general government services.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in our budget, 2017, 2018 budget, we're gonna show that we have 4.8 revenue over expenses at the end of 2018, the way the budget is presented tonight. Right? 4.8 million? Should we expect it $2 million less of that for amortization? So then why do we not have that in there? If we're expecting, say, my problem is if we're making a decision based on the fact that we think we have $4.8 million to spend at the end of the year, but you're gonna pull out the amortization and we actually only have $2 million? And to me, that should be an accounting thing that.
So the design of this budget spreadsheet, the way I read it, and Laura, you can feel free to jump in at any point. If the amortization had been included in the functions above, you can see the line under add, which says add back amortization. So
Yeah.
it'd simply be, if you included amortization in your functional allocations, you would add it back right here. And so it would have a net zero impact on what you're approving tonight.
Oh, you take it out on one and you add it back in on the other.
Yeah, so you can see in 17, why we don't present amortization is because it hasn't been included in the functions
Yes.
above, and it hasn't been added back. And there's actually a line for it right here. And you can see it, it's about 3/4 of the way down the page. It says add
Yes.
back amortization.
Okay.
So if you were to budget for amortization as an operating expense, then as part of your 5-year plan, you actually add it back because it's not cash. It's not a
Right.
physical payment that you have to make.
Yeah.
The cash is when you go buy, a new truck or something.
Okay.
I'm happy to have.
Well, you have something to add to that?
That's right. No, I think what I'll do is I'll sit down with Laura just to get a little bit more clarity on that for myself there. I just want to know at the end of the year, is there $4.8 million there for us to spend if we had to? It's not, right?
So just keep in mind that 4.8 is revenue over expenses on your operating. You still have capital, your
Sorry,
capital budget, right?
Right.
So and that's why you don't add the amortization in, because what you're going to do, and you saw on here where our capital tangible capital assets went up by a lot because we invested, and it goes down. It's just not a cash expense. So it's something that definitely council should track, because if you can get into a situation, a lot of municipalities are there where that amortization, which hasn't factored into their tax base, has left them in a huge capital deficit.
Right.
And that's something that council should be aware of and should track. Tumbler Ridge doesn't have a big capital deficit we're replacing right now. So it's something that needs to be identified, which is why it's in the financial statements, but it's not a cash expense, which is why it's not in our budget.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. And thank you again for putting it in big print. We'll go to 5.3, the library, Paula, Chris? Chris? Welcome, everybody.
I'm putting our board chair on the hotspot.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us. Needless to say, we were kind of surprised to hear this week that our the money that the council had agreed to give us, the council meeting we attended prior to last week, had been rolled back last week. We just wanted to, or I don't know if we wanted to, but we were asked to come here again tonight just to talk about
I guess I'm not sure whether you have misinformation or, I wonder, we went into last week's meeting being on the agenda for tonight's meeting. And I don't know, if there are questions that we can answer because the number that you've rolled us back to does not take into account the change in minimum wage that the provincial government has implemented for June 1st. So without receiving that money that was in the budget, the $449,000 that you now have sitting sort of hanging, waiting for an expense, it is going to impact our level of service. And we've been getting mixed signals all along. We're doing a good job, we're an excellent service, we're used by everyone, every age level in the community. And I would like you to revisit that decision based on the fact that the minimum wage changed after we had submitted that original budget amount. So by taking us back to the original budget amount, you are now putting us behind the 8 ball, so to speak, and putting us in an awkward financial position. So I would appreciate you asking us any questions. I don't know what else I can tell you. We've certainly given you information, you've had comparisons. I don't know what else to say. We do have one other.
I have a letter from the board that I'd like to read. I don't know if it'll make any difference, but the board has requested that I read it. The BC government has seen that minimum wage is not a reasonable living wage and it needed to be increased. Minimum wage will have been increased by $2 an hour, almost 20% by June 1st in the last 1 to 5 years. Yet 4 members of council felt at 2% it was a fair, I'm sorry, but it's not quite written right, is fair for everyone making above minimum wage. This support from the BC government demonstrates to us and to other underpaid organizations that we all deserve a fair wage. And we argue that it shouldn't just be minimum wage, that increases as the reduced disparity will affect all employees. The members of council who voted for a wage increase showed vision and leadership by supporting fair wages and supporting the growth movement that underpaid positions deserve, that they deserve a fair wage. They support fair wages for libraries and other child care workers. We should pay our staff in our service industries a reasonable wage, not because we are mandated by the government or forced to, but because we recognize their value to our community. We should show that we don't just support fair wages, but we embrace them. We should act as an example to all other communities who should invest in their people, because our people are what make our town and its services great. By willingly pulling out our already agreed upon budget and voting to reduce a reasonable wage increase, you demonstrate that you do not support fair wages. Cost of living will not allow the library to compete fairly in this community job market or to meet the required minimum wage without reducing services. The wage comparisons you received show that our hourly wages are not average, but low. So I apologize for stumbling over it. I didn't write it, I just read it. So again, we ask that you revisit your decision.
For one thing, the minimum wage, first time I heard about it was last week in Paula's office, the increase in it. So that that can definitely play something into this. So I can see us having another look at this maybe down the line sometime. But we made a decision, and I guess we're with that right now. And but if the minimum wage goes up, I can see a reason for.
It's going up. We have no control over that.
I've only heard that from you, so.
It's been public.
But I will find out.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess as one of the councillors who lack vision and leadership, how many of your staff right now are making minimum wage?
3.
3? Okay.
I should also add that I get a sense that council wants to micromanage, and I'm not convinced that it's good use of your time. First of all, I have nothing to hide. You're welcome to look, but my board is overseeing everything. You get financial statements every month, right, Carol? And we just got our letter from our auditors who are saying the same thing they said with the district's audit. It's a clean audit. So our money is used for the purpose that we say it's going to be used for. And we don't ask for increases. In fact, before the district started to try to save money in their budget, in the operating budget, the library went ahead. The first year I was here, we started to cut our budget that year. And I cut something like $100,000 out of the computer line alone. So we have more than been economically responsible. Right now, if you take out our salaries, I keep telling you that the people in the library are our strength. That's why you have the library service that you do. And when I looked, as I've been playing with all the numbers this spring, because I've revisited it so many times, when I added up the budget without the salaries, just the operating, so computers, copiers, phone, all of those costs, we're operating the library for less than $50,000. So I don't know many other organizations that can say that. So our daily operating costs are under $50,000 without our salaries. So I think that we are good bang for your buck, and I would appreciate you looking at this with the minimum wage increase, because it will impact everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Is there any more questions from council?
Thank you, Worship. Just as sort of a reminder, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last time that you made your presentation and so forth, we talked a little bit about comparable communities, and in terms of ensuring that you're not looking at something in Vancouver, for example, but you can say here, 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 and here we've got all those kinds of things. This would be fair, and we are below the scale, whatever. Can you just refresh our memories as to, A, that has been completed to give you some kind of a fix as to what you're asking for and to be able to support that? And where does that stand in terms of specifically the amount that you are trying to attain so that you keep comparable? Can you just give us an overview again of that, Paula?
Council's been given that number from two sources, both from me and from district staff who put those numbers together, using the libraries in the area. And I'm not sure that we're comparing apples and apples when we do that. Library service is different everywhere. And so I guess we also have to look at the state that the communities are in. For example, Fort St. John and Taylor and Hudson's Hope are all impacted by the changes in liquid natural gas that aren't hitting us to the same extent. So you have to look at their economy and our economy in addition to what they're paying their staff in the different libraries. And I think that Dawson Creek, I've certainly not used all of the other libraries, but I've heard that people who use our service and people who use Dawson Creek's or Fort St. John's, for example, compare ours more favorably. They like our library better. We have a better collection. The other libraries, Fort St. John and Dawson, Chris confirmed for me, use a lot of our collection in interlibrary loans, right? And so if other libraries are reaching out and getting support from us, just as we borrow books from them, because you can't possibly have all the books yourself, then I think that we're in a good place, and we do compare, we're significantly lower in salaries than Dawson Creek. And all of the libraries, as is stated in the letter that Jerry Lynn read, we have an opportunity to almost set a standard and be an example. Dawson did it 2 years ago when their librarian retired. She knew that she was low, and so she took it to her council. I'm taking it to this council with my board's support, and I know that Chetwynd has been fighting this fight for at least 2 years. So they've now lost their librarian. She's moving to Prince George, and so they're looking for someone there, and the salary there is up in the air because it's not easy to recruit. So I think that we are in a position to be doing, you know, maybe we came out with a too high a number in the beginning and we should have spread it over a couple of years. But realistically, I believe that the second amount is absolutely doable by this community and it's needed by this community. And the other reason we need to do this is because the staff in the library are not being recognized for their professionalism and their abilities. And I think that as their manager, I certainly feel that we are not adequately recognizing their abilities and their service to this community. And this is one way to do it. And I think it's an important way. And I do believe that this community is in a position to support this. And it's not something that we do every time we turn around. We haven't had an increase in our budget other than cost of living in years.
So Paul, again, just to remind us, what specifically in terms of amount are you looking for? Is it 2%, 5%?
No, I don't know what the percentage is. It's the 50, what was it, Jordan? 48,000 on the last. It's 49,000 that's left, that's available.
The other thing that makes us a little bit unique is that we are funded totally by the district. Other libraries in the region are funded partially by their city or their district and partially by the regional district.
And I did
So
speak
that
with
makes-
Dawn on Friday about that.
That makes a difference too, because if you look at what Chetwynd pays for their library services, they're only paying that for a small portion of their population. Regional district is kicking in a rather large portion of that budget, and that's what makes
Chetwynd's amount's about 100,000 from the district.
And I'm gonna address that at regional district. I think I know the answer I'm gonna get, but I'm gonna address it anyway.
It's because we have no rural residents except for yourself.
But it certainly puts us at a disadvantage.
But no, it came across in your presentation as maybe like we don't believe it, but I do appreciate what you do there, and I do think you do a good job. And I'll say it again, but yeah, I think some of the problem here was the high number that it was first asked, and it made us very really have a look at it, and so maybe that was a mistake.
That just means that for 30 years we've been underpaid.
Yeah, okay, but so, you know, we're here all the time, and I mean, I guess I'm the guy that's gonna bring it back, it's gonna come back, and I'm not sure, well, you can let me know for sure on that, but nothing to do with the budget is done, and then maybe if it was this increase in minimum wage, that would be something that would be a reason. Mr. Waller, did you have something, or, Councilor Kirby, I saw your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Has there been any numbers figured out to include the minimum wage increase into the total that we passed previous meeting?
Not that I have.
The number, the 49,000,
That was including the.
that includes
that
the
was
minimum wage. Because it's gonna bump everybody, because the first people are only making 15. So if your differential is $1 or $2 after the new minimum wage comes in, and I've got people who've been working 3 years in a senior position, and their differentials reduced by $2 because that's what minimum wage has changed, then they need to go up a little bit too. And they're within the averages that we used from the province, from the northern part of the province.
So the $49,000 was included the minimum wage plus the 2% increase? The
No,
council,
it includes the average, it's only the average. I took those average numbers.
so what would the difference be then? That's what I'm looking at. So one had the minimum wage increase, one only had a 2% cost of living.
All I did was I took the average because
That's where I'm confused.
the 2% cost of living, that was our initial ask, was a 2% cost of living. At the time, we didn't know that the government was gonna raise minimum wage. We knew they were at some point, we didn't know that. And then during the budget process, they raised the minimum wage. So what I was told to do for that meeting was to take those average numbers and figure out, based on what I do, how we staff and how we schedule, I was told to use that average and calculate it. And because it was a slightly bigger number, it automatically takes into account any differences in minimum wage.
So then what council actually passed was your initial request of the 2%
Exactly.
cost of living, which we
2% on last year's, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so, okay with that? Well, thank you for your presentation. Oh.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, if I could, I'm confused somewhat as to where we go from here. If you've determined by the surveys and the information that you try to garner from comparable communities, and you've come up with whatever those figures are, and you say, we are down based on all of that, which is a reasonable comparison, going on that basis. We are X number of dollars or percentages down from where we should be. None of that has changed, correct? And you are down. So I guess the question becomes, where do we, is the conversation now finished and it isn't gonna happen? So we're gonna have to worry about it and last it for another year, or is it worthy of further discussion to at least come up with the amount that makes it comparable if we agree as a council that we are less than where we should be? That's my question. So I'm looking for clarification on that.
My plan is to bring it up to regional district, find out why, and if there's a possibility of getting funding from them. If not, bring it back to council and tell council why we don't get funding from the regional district, but I'm sure it's a question in everybody's mind right now. And then we also have to address this minimum wage thing, how that affects us. So I think that'll come up at maybe another P&P and we can discuss it.
So it's not the end of the process by any means at this stage of the game. Fair enough.
I have one more thing, just in response to the regional district thing. So the regional district technically funds them, but they fund them through the area. So Area E gets a certain budget, and they fund the library in Area E. Area C gets a certain budget, they fund the library through Area C. Tumbler Ridge doesn't fall into an area, so that they don't get that budget. So they're distributed by each of the regional directors, not by the entire regional district.
We got two regions already on our municipality. So there is two regions that could be involved. Two little regions could be involved.
So you guys have 3 employees that
They're at minimum wage right now. Are they full-time employees? Part-time employees?
so how many hours do those folks work in a year?
In a year, about 700.
So 700 and the minimum wage is increasing by
$2 an hour. So 700 hours times $2 an hour.
But that then impacts, because all of my staff are paid at such a low level, it impacts everyone across the board.
So the government increase in minimum wage is not targeted for all employment, for everybody to get an increase in wages. You're saying that your people that are on the minimum wage are getting an increase of 20%. You're saying everybody should get an increase of 20%?
No, I'm not saying they should all get 20%.
Everybody should get $2 or better?
No, it's not $2 or better. It's not a set formula that way. It's done, what we did was we took the numbers as directed by council, using the average of the Northeast libraries, and we used that number to do our calculation for where people should be at. Because ultimately, the provincial government is going to be at $15.
Yeah, but they're not.
And they're going to be there within 2 years.
Then you come back year after year.
Exactly, I
and keep
understand
increasing
that.
it. I'm good with that. But what I'm not good with is I don't think that because we increase the minimum wage for one part of the segment of the community, that everyone in the community gets their wages increased. It doesn't work like that for me. So. But anyways, I don't want to get into it any further. We have made a vote on it. We decided to go with the 2%.
I think Chris should answer your question.
Hang on. We've had a vote on this. We've increased it by 2%, and the reason I think that this has occurred is because it's been not handled correctly. Where you guys come in with a large ask that was totally blown out of the water, then we asked, how did you come up with this? This number was brought in. Then we said, well, how many employees do you have that are guys like Chris? our comparison is 1, you guys have 3, how many part-time employees you have, they only do, you know,
The comparisons all the way along has not been set up well. We're into the 11th hour here with our budget.
and we're trying to make a decision on the budget like now, before everybody's gone and we meet our deadlines and blah, blah, blah. In my mind, it's gone on too far. We're to the point where we can make a decision on the 2%. More than willing to hear you when you come back next time, but it has to be laid out better than what it was laid out this time.
That's my
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. That I don't think the procedure that the library followed wasn't correct. I think they might ask you too big a increase, and it just muddied everything. So, thank you for your presentation,
Thank you.
and we will keep it in.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to correspondence. 6.1, Minister of Finance, cannabis taxation. Information or discussion? Councilor Kirkpatrick.
Your worship, for information.
Okay, Seconder? Kirby, all in favor? Northern Health, spring dust season and air quality considerations. Information or discussion? Kirby?
Move for information?
All in favor? Carried. Goodie Valley Sally Club, request for fall fair. They're asking for something here.
For discussion, if I may.
Okay. Seconder? Kirby?
I just believe they're asking for 4 porta potties for the fall fair. I'm not sure that over and above what they're asking for, so if it's settled, well, because the fall fair is gonna be somewhere else. So I'm assuming that's over and above, or is the fall fair committee now gonna come in? Yeah, committee?
Yeah, talked to about Mr. Wild about this earlier. This is just for the Saturday Cup. The fall fair is going to be a vacation this year, so they will be, asking to say everything. Councilor.
So just on that, I wonder if we can invite the Saddle Club in as a delegate. Because I believe in the 2015 budget, we gave them $27,000. Part of that was to fix fences, and the other one was that to host the fall fair. So my understanding was that we really supported obviously the idea of the fall fair and fixing the fences. And now they're giving up the fall fair, but willing to do something else. So I'm just curious, they made money in 2015 and 2016, 2016 and 2017. Now they're opting out of it and handing off the fall fair to somebody else. To me, which we put money into that as a start. I don't understand.
I don't have any problem with them coming in as a delegation, but I would like to support this.
Oh, no, I have no problem with that, but, or even if we can get an update, maybe there doesn't need to be a delegation. Maybe they can explain that part, I'm not sure if they're accountable to that or not.
Councilor Kirby, you had something there?
Yes, thank you, your worship. I had a chat with Diana Skillen today, just to, they do have funds left over from what the district, had given them previously. They will be helping, there's a new committee formed, just the direction of the whole fall fair was a lot bigger than what the Saddle Club kind of wanted to take on. And they wanted to keep more with the country fair aspect, so they are gonna be more of a participant this year than an organization, organizers. With the money left over, they are still gonna be helping this new group, giving them money for insurances and some different things, but yeah, so they will be holding like the Gymkhana events, and such, so yeah, there is a change, so, you know, having them come in would be good, but that's just a little bit of information that I got today.
Appreciate that, because I did try to touch base with her, so good on you, thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we support the 4 porta potties set up and take the recommendations.
Seconder for that? Sir Howe? Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Carried. 6.4, Dr. Iffy, letter of appreciation, information for district.
Move for information, worship.
Secondary, Councilor Kaka. All in favor? Oh, discussion. Information. I got my mind off. All in favor? Sorry. Bylaws. 2018 tax rate bylaw number 663, 2018 adoption. Recommendation. Councilor Kaka.
The District of Ridge 2018 tax rate bylaw number 663, 2018 be adopted.
Secondary, Councilor McKay. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. 7.2, 2018 to 2022 financial plan bylaw, number 664, 2018.
Recommend that the District of Tumble Ridge 2018 to 2022 tax rate bylaw number 664, 2018 be adopted.
Seconder, Councilor Kirby, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Fees and charges amendment bylaw 662, 2018. Councilor Kirby,
Recommendation that the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 662, 2018 be adopted.
aye. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. New business, in 51, golf course outdoor wedding ceremonies policy. Recommendation there. That's good.
Recommendation that council approves the District of Tumblr Ridge Admin 51 golf course outdoor wedding ceremony policy.
Secretary Councilor Kaka. Discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. TR Cares annual golf tournament. Fee waiver request. Recommendation on page 53, I think. Option 1. Councilor
I'd like to recommend that council adopts the Tierra Cares annual golf tournament fee waiver requests.
it sets that out there, right below it,
Page 50.
page 53,
I'll read it if you can find it.
that's a trick.
Thanks. The council waives the fee waiver policy amendment 44 for the TR Cares Surrey Golf Tournament, August 18, 2018. And the council approves the TR Cares fee waiver request to waive the green fees and car rentals for the fundraising golf tournament, August 18, 2018.
Discussion? Councilor Kaka.
Thank you, Worship. I thought there was a policy put in place, and it was before I was on council, but I was in the gallery. And it was something similar, it was always for when non-for-profit people were coming in to throw tournaments, so TR Cares was one of them. They talked about the museum, they talked about anybody that was in that they would give back the green fees. I'm not gonna say cart rentals, but I remember that came up, and, you know, councilors that were here before, Darlene Wren was the mayor, and that came up. And I was positive that was voted on by the group, that when these groups would come in, that was set down there for the golf course, like, when they're doing it as a fundraiser to help their society. So whether it's the museum or TR Cares or the Geopark, whoever, that's not for profit, it was and I'm positive it was approved.
Well,
We looked into that as well because we had some members of staff who were wondering the same thing. We found a motion from 2012, but we couldn't find any action taken on that motion, so I don't believe anything was adopted.
I thought it was voted on the council.
It was voted on to have work done.
Okay, so there's nothing done from the inside, in that year, is what you're saying?
So what it looks like is that council voted to have a policy created,
Yeah.
and the policy was never created.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Stars helipad. Recommendation there? Councilor Cage.
Thank you, Worship. The council includes a pre-feasibility study for helipad requirements on Site 19 adjacent to the Tumbleweed Medical Center in the 2019 discussions.
Seconder? Okay. Discussion? Councilor Hall?
Yeah, looking at some of the costs here of, I mean, the town that did it before,
It was like $300,000 that they put into theirs, and then there's ongoing maintenance and upkeep, and there's some amount. So I didn't, when we first talked about this, I didn't realize we were going to be spending $300,000 plus a pre-feasibility study to have them have a helipad here in town. Like, definitely still want them to come here and land here and everything, but I thought it was more along the lines of, we chain it up so somebody couldn't get up there, put lights up or ground lights or something like that. I didn't think that we were going to head down the road to spend this type of money. The way I understand how stars work, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is an incident they have to respond, they can land in the parking lot over here if that's not available. That's what Mr. Beal had said to me. If there was too much snow in there, they have other spots, and they can actually land right in the intersection actually. So I don't know if I want to go down the road of a pre-feasibility study at this point. Spend $30,000 to tell us how we should build the helipad over there, and to spend another $300,000. To me, I don't think it's required. I don't. If we were ever going to lose stars in our area, absolutely. But I don't think we're at that point.
I agree with everything you said, and I brought that up today with Mr. Wall, that they can land anywhere. They don't need that. So really, what we're doing here is spending money that we don't have to spend. Councilor Kaka?
Thank you, but actually, Councilor Hall beat me too. I was just gonna say the same thing, like we're doing that. I mean, I know there is a way of, I think a lot of the parties will say is to find out how we actually can just regulate it, not make it bad. What these pads cost
Yes.
$500,000 to $1 million, depends where they are, and that's why Port St. John, the new hospital, has no helipad. They land here. So if we're doing an evac, the helicopter lands at the airport. But you're correct, stars can land anywhere within the school field, the elementary.
I think
Just
if
do a
they-
lot.
I think if we start looking at this over here, and somebody can come up with a reason that they can't land there, and all of a sudden we would have to spend that $300,000 someplace else, so.
And if it does come to that point, I mean, there's an airport, like, we have an airport, the town does keep clearing up winter time. It is a 20-minute run, but it can be done.
Okay, so, anybody else have anything? Call the question, all in favor of that? Opposed?
I'm opposed at this time.
Thank you. Defeated. Recreational cannabis bylaws. We have a recommendation there. It's jumping fairly quick. Councilor Hall.
Recommendation as presented.
Seconder? Discussion.
So just for lack of dumbing this down a little bit here, this will be our kind of our first crack at the bylaw, because the way I understand it, the federal laws haven't quite even come out. Is that what this is, our first round at it?
References come out, and it's pretty broad. It's laid out there. These are recommendations actually from our legal staff.
So the province and the feds have set out enough of a framework that council, you have the ability to set the regulations on where they're gonna be. The province is gonna finalize different things, but you are now aware of what your powers are going to be and what the province is going to do. So one of the things the province has said is that in order to establish a recreational cannabis retail store, you're going to need community support, and that can be done depending on how different municipalities want to do it. In larger centers, they may say, we'll have an application process through administration. In a town like Tumbler Ridge, I would say that will come to council. Council will need to have a motion of support before anybody's allowed to establish a retail store. But outside of just the retail sales, we know that production is going to be allowed, so council can either include that in zoning or not include it in zoning. And what staff has proposed is that we allow it to take place in the heavy industrial park. And then when it comes to consumption, council also has the ability to allow or disallow consumption within the district of Tumbler Ridge, similar to smoking bylaws. Calgary, for example, has banned the consumption in any public place within the community. Dawson Creek is following their smoking bylaws. The province is saying that anywhere you're allowed to smoke a cigarette or a vape pen, you will be allowed to consume cannabis. But municipalities have the ability, the same way we have the ability with smoking, to further regulate that. And so what staff has proposed here is that we prohibit the consumption within the downtown core. And also we have the ability to regulate odor nuisances. So this recommendation would have a bylaw, allow for bylaw complaints to be filed. So if you're in your backyard and people are smoking up in you're their neighbor, you can file a bylaw complaint to have them stop.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, is how it affects other people, not the person doing it, it's how it affects everybody else around it. You can run into it every corner, it seems.
Yeah, I know, like, I look at it as, you know, are we gonna look at it as cigarettes, Tumbler Ridge? I didn't really, we're gonna have much of a choice. I thought it was all gonna come down the line from the province, but are we gonna look at it like tobacco or vaping? Or are we gonna look at it more like alcohol in Tumbler Ridge? Like alcohol, you can't drink alcohol walking down the street or down the road anywhere else, but you can smoke cigarettes walking down the road. You can drink in your own yard or your own house or an establishment. You can't, you know. So to me, is that the framework you guys are looking at, or that's what you've put in place here is just the downtown core and people can walk up and down the streets past the schools, smoking dope wherever they want? Like, or is there more time to massage this?
Council has time. With the prohibition on consumption, you'll be able to make that change at any point you want. A prohibition on retail, because you have the ability to deny applications, you don't have to worry about that. That's where you would be worried. If somebody starts a retail cannabis store, you can't zone them out of the community now. Any zoning changes you make, they're grandfathered in, right?
Yeah.
But as far as consumption goes, you're able to prohibit consumption where you wish to prohibit consumption. This bylaw has it prohibited in the downtown core and walking paths. Would somebody be able to walk across the schools? Likely the province is going to have setbacks on the schools for that.
And if they don't, can
parks.
we capture it at another point?
And if they don't, you're able to prohibit it wherever you wish to prohibit it.
Okay. So this will kind of be the starting framework, and then if there's things that we notice along the way, we can start changing it.
You can amend your bylaws whenever you wish.
Thank you, Worship. Just a basic question, I guess. Do we have any bylaws relative to smoking cigarettes? Then why would we want to pursue a bylaw for cannabis if it's not illegal? Why?
That's a Dawson Creek did. They got a real strict smoking bylaw, so they just couple in the cannabis with that. I guess we could do that, but really it's they're looking at it completely different than alcohol for some reason. I never thought they'd do that, but they did. So I guess it's in our hands to make it work here. If we want to put in a smoking bylaw, I'd hate to see us get
And I'm not
because of cannabis.
and I'm not suggesting that we do that, but it strikes me what I don't know really anything about cannabis to the degree I share with anybody on council at the moment. But I don't. When you're talking cigarettes, you're talking cannabis. Cannabis is not legal. Why wouldn't we just leave it be and like anybody buying a package of cigarettes? I'm just trying to get it clear in my own mind what the basis for that would be.
The secondary smoke can affect you too, and when you start talking about our children.
And I have a comment.
Yeah, I'll get right to you. You want to protect that part of it. You don't want them You don't want them smoking down by the skateboard park and stuff like that. 'Cause that can,
But wouldn't that also apply with just regular smoking? I mean, that's what I'm trying to distinguish.
yeah.
It's now legal, it's now whatever, you can purchase it, I'm just trying to clear my own mind, why one and not the other, that's all.
Some towns have done that, like Dawson. Go ahead, Alan. Ellen?
Nope, yeah, I was just thinking, we need some guidelines, I think, to keep it away from the school areas, as well as if businesses are bringing it in to sell, having guidelines there are important too. And I was just wondering, if we do bring these in, a bylaw, will it be a general one for businesses that are wanting to sell, or will it be a one-on-one that comes before council for decisions?
That would be up to however council wants to structure your bylaw. Right now, the way this is set up is that each retail store would need to come in front of council and get permission. So you would have to go through a similar process to zoning, where you'd have to talk to the people in the affected area, so that the neighboring establishments, and council could either support or deny the application at that point. When it comes to parks and schools, the province is going to have regulations about smoking marijuana in places that or smoking cannabis in places that children frequent, but council can make whatever regulations on that you wish.
Councilor McKay,
I've kind of wondered about this myself over quite a long period of time. Vancouver, Penticton, any of those places you go, I mean, you don't see, very rarely, open beer cans or alcohol on the street. Right? I mean, it's when you're walking down the street, it's the odd occasion, but it's not frequent. But nowadays, I mean, you can walk down, whether it's Granville or anywhere downtown. Same thing with Penticton and any Kelowna, they're all the same, and you can smell cannabis anywhere you go, almost down to anywhere downtown core. And I'm not sure if it's not maybe the sheer numbers of whether it's arrests or whatever that the police would have to do in order to curb it. But I kind of like what Dawson Creek has done, and kind of parallel it with what you see with alcohol, where it's not allowed on the streets, and because I would have, most people would have a concern, children walking past and just being normal.
And to me, it's the impairment issue, Mike. The difference between cigarettes and marijuana is you smoke marijuana and you're impaired, and you smoke a cigarette and you're not. That's the issue I have with people being in the downtown core getting high. Either they're driving home or whatever. And it gives us an opportunity at this point to say, you know what, yeah, it's legalized. Do it in the privacy of your own home or wherever. Similar as you drink alcohol, there are probably going to be places, establishments where you can smoke pot downstairs or downtown here, and that's fine as well. But to me, I don't want my kids thinking that that's normalized and it's okay, and as soon as you turn 16, that's an okay thing to do. In my mind, I want that, ease into it a little bit further than just, yeah, she's full blown smoked dope wherever you want in Tumbler Ridge. To me, it should be the same as alcohol. Privacy of your own home, and more than anything, it's the impairment issue.
And again, not to belabor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Then why aren't those the rules? Similar to, I mean, why hasn't that been spelled out to that degree?
we can do that. And I think once staff does over this recommendation here, does that come back to PDP when we can discuss one?
Go back wherever you wish.
Yeah, I think it should, and then we can look at it, and if we want more things added, we can do it at that time.
Yeah, so my concern is if we did have areas in town, like the downtown core is out, but you're allowed to smoke it in the commercial park and you're allowed to in the lower bench, and it starts to water it down where it's hard to enforce it. It's easy to enforce if you say you cannot smoke it anywhere besides at your home or a licensed establishment, the same as alcohol. You can't walk down the road and drink beer, you can't go down in the park and drink beer, you can't go to the high school field and drink beer. You can drink it in your front yard mowing your grass or whatever, or over at the beer store. You can't drive with it. To me, that's the easiest way to do it. Follow the way that you do with alcohol. it's an impairment, and to me, I don't think we need it in downtown core or anywhere on the streets.
So, take a vote on this and then see where we go.
Well, if we're voting on this is, sorry.
Go ahead.
If we're voting on this talks about just the downtown core, it doesn't talk about all the other places. So that's why I was wondering if it's a first crack at it, if we get the flavor of council, perhaps we can pass that on to staff. I don't know.
Why don't we could table this and then have a P&P on it and get the input down.
I have one other question regarding that.
Okay.
Is it something worth consulting with the RCMP too regarding legalities and stuff like that? So our bylaws are following or are they going to be on a huge learning curve as well?
They presented at the regional district last week, and I asked that question, and they didn't really answer it. They said at this point they don't see that it's going to change the way they operate.
Okay.
I have a hard time believing that, but that's what they said.
Yeah, I think a P&P with further discussion would be great though.
Are we at any risk of
Not having these bylaws in place by the time the federal government rolls us out if we have a P&P?
You'd want to make your decision at the P&P if we forwarded it to the next one. The thing is, staff needs to get time to make the bylaws. They need to be read 3 times. They need to be adopted. Yep. The federal government is still saying summer, and in the report it says August here. I think that moving it to a P&P wouldn't be an issue as long as council made a decision at that P&P is what you want to see.
Thank you. Just wonder if, and I agree with the having a P&P on. I think it would be an interesting discussion. It would also be worthwhile to have other representatives, for example, the RCMP, some legal whatever, to have those kinds of to maybe invite them for some input into it.
I know I've had some discussions with Sergeant Fail, and he's got a lot of ideas. So yeah, I think we got a P&P and brought RCMP in, and I don't know who else.
The RCMP will be presenting at the P&P next week.
Well, that'd be a good time to do it then.
about this though? Not about this though.
No, they won't be presenting, but he'll be here, so.
But we forwarded this report over to the RCMP, so they are aware of it. So he should be able to speak on it, and I can let him know that he'd like council will be asking questions about it.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the recommendation that staff put forward is good. After going to that conference that we went and sat in Fort St. John, I think the only thing that I would add to this would be, besides the downtown core, would be all playgrounds and parks, school grounds and parks, playgrounds. Yeah, and otherwise, I think it's a great start, and I think we'll learn from. I think we'll get more of an idea once it actually comes into play. Because we might be creating and thought processes that we won't even need to, but this here gives us a good foundation, and then kind of learn by once we're in it.
How about we vote on this, and then P&P, if we have the RCMP coming, we could have a section there where we could talk about the cannabis thing. Maybe there's some more ideas that come up from that.
Yeah, so I have no problem voting on this tonight and getting the process moving with staff. It looks like 3 of these, the first one and the third and the fourth, look like something staff's pretty well, in my mind, got the handle on it. It's just the second one about where we're gonna allow it to be. And so I think we pass it today with the idea that that can be massaged a little bit. I'm okay with that, and if staff's understanding of that, then I can vote for it.
Okay. Yeah, call the question then. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Rural residential market exploration, recommendation there?
That administration prepares a land development strategy to identify zone and if needed, acquire new development areas for service 0.2 to 0.49 hectare lots, and that the land development strategy includes the zoning and building code updates for
Rural unserviced land, and that administration conducts a professional review and update the building code bylaws
to allow for more flexible development in Tumbler Ridge, and
Give me a second. There's an alternative recommendation I want to add to it as well.
and administration prepares a land development strategy to identify, zone, acquire, and develop. Change that to 5 acre unserviced lots. Minimum 5 acre service lots. It could be larger.
Second for that.
Okay. So
So what was the recommendation?
What's that?
I just wanted to know what the recommendation on the floor was. That was for the first part of the one, as well as the 5 acre lots unserviced?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank
It's
you.
alternative number 2 on page 62, but it's just a slight
Okay.
change. Instead of saying 2+ hectares, it's minimum of 5 acres.
Okay,
So I just want to just speak to that. So
So I've been the survey that was put out. We put the survey out with the intention of trying to find out if there was a flavor for lots that were 5 acres or larger. That's what I thought the intention was. This survey that went out only has one point in it, in all the, whatever it is, 22 questions, that talk specifically about anything larger than 5 acres. This survey was generated towards people looking for serviced building lots in Tumbler Ridge. It was not the correct survey to send out for rural acreages. That being said, this survey has shown a need or demonstrated a need for larger serviced lots within the district of Tumbler Ridge. Although I still feel that there's a need to have larger than 5 acre lots, which are the ones that urban systems have told us we do not have to provide water, sewer, or anything to them if they're bigger than 5 acres. I still think that those are what can help draw more people into town. So it's kind of taken something that I don't think this was the right market exploration that I was looking for, it certainly wasn't, but it did find a need that there are a need for larger lots here, and we're out of lots in Tumbler Ridge. We've only got a couple that belong to us. There is somebody that owns a bunch up top, but they're still the smaller size lots. So this is, I had a really good conversation with Mr. Wall about this today, and there's a couple of areas that have been identified that we can move into rural residential lots that can be totally serviced, a little bit larger, and we also need to start looking at some commercial lots because we're out of commercial lots in town as well. So if we want to be ready, if PRC fires up or Quintet ever goes or HD, we are not ready at this time. We are going to have a camp here, and we're going to miss the opportunity to get people to move to Tumbler Ridge. So I think we need to look at the larger lot sizes, and we need 5 acre lots.
There is 5 acre lots. I was talking to John Moore, the property on the way to where we get there. And right on top of the hill there's 5 acre lots there. And there's room for 10 more on the other side of the road. I've heard that one might be moving, so I'm waiting for more word on that. I'd sure like to see that happen and just see how it goes.
Yeah. So just with regards to what he has up there, I mean, I'm probably not the right spot to be careful with what I say here, but the rural lots that I'd like to see in Tumbler Ridge are, I'd like to see the ability to us to utilize the workings of the geopark for people to do ecotourism lots. So if you have a spot where you can set up cabins that's out in the Wolverine Valley or out in the Bull Moose Valley or something like that. So I don't want us to walk away from that because somebody has picked an area that they want lots up there. To me, those lots are very high priced, and I think that they have to be serviced in the area that they're in. So,
Price was 30,000, and I thought that was very reasonable.
it was 150,000 when I looked at it, but.
I know it's a drop.
Okay.
I got that right from John.
Okay.
You know, I agree, I see what you're saying, because we come up with a conversation I had with the tourism gentleman on, from Lotus. That's the type of thing that is needed here, is somebody that's got some cabins around there, rather than just a hotel. Somebody with these, you paddle on, they want that experience.
Horses, skidoos, dog sleds, stuff like that.
Councilor Kirkland, you had?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm gonna support that because I totally agree with the 5 acres and more. And I think it is drawing over community, gets people to live here. People that have left here because they couldn't get one, there's 3 people I know personally have left because they couldn't get a bigger facility. I'll be supporting it.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 8.6, TR Community Garden Compost Society. Recommendation there? Councilor McKay.
As presented.
Okay, Secretary? Drucker? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. TR Ridge Rider Snowmobilities. Recommendation.
As presented.
Secretary, Councilor McKay. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Geo Center project, the recommendation. Kirby?
As presented?
Seconder? Councilor Casey, discussion? Go ahead.
I thought they were looking at another option with that in regards to putting it over by the or by the Newvik Center, I'm sorry. Yeah, by the Newvik. I thought there was an option, even when we were at the P&P, it was brought up, asking if they, you know, they had another option. I believe they were supposed to come back with it. Your worship had mentioned that.
Yep, they
You
did.
did mention that.
Yeah, this option here is the one that works better for the jail center, ties into the caboose, and that was the recommendation that, the last one that we got. That previous one, that was a while back.
But when they were here as a delegate.
And I have a question.
I know the worship asked about looking up another location, what is over the new Nixon? And they were gonna come back to that, they thought that that could work as well. I know they wanted the caboose and that, so they could do a ice cream shop in there and a coffee shop or something. But I thought they were also waiting to hear back from the museum on about taking that over from. I believe they have it right now,
Yeah, I think so.
so I don't know if that's ever come back.
I mentioned that to Mr. Wall, and I don't think they have, because you were away at the time. And I don't remember the discussion coming back.
I'm not aware of that discussion ever taking place. I do know that the Geo Park has a letter on here outlining what their request is, and their request was for the land at the old visitor center. That's all I'm aware of.
Helen, you had something?
Yeah, I was just wanting clarification on this recommendation. Is this the current Visitor Information Center, or is this the old Vic Center where we're taking the building down,
The old bit.
where the caboose is?
It's the old one.
The old one?
Yeah.
So were we, I know at one point we were also talking about demolishing that building and then putting it up for sale. And I would be in favor of that if we had a small parcel of land to put out there.
Anybody else? Okay, call the question on the recommendation. All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed?
Opposed.
Carried.
So just on that, can you find out about the caboose? Is that being taken away from the museum? I believe they have it. I'd like to know that.
Mr. Orr, can you find out what the status of the uses for one of the future meetings? Okay.
With the removal of this, is this demolition or is this maybe see who, I mean, I know the gun club were looking at that at one time. Is that still an option rather than just total demolition?
I don't know, I think that's just left up to staff.
The gun club doesn't want it anymore.
Oh, okay.
And it's gonna, my guess is it's gonna be demolition. If somebody's willing to take it, they're more than welcome to have it, but that, after you move that building, it won't be habitable.
Ready, 8.9, travel approval to go to Victoria, and the caribou thing would be big with Mr. Donaldson. And Numa's looking to expand into another pit, and they need a soccer machine, which I saw at the region district last week, so that's, discuss this with Mr. Mongo if I go, so.
Thank you, Worship. Will you also be able to discuss our rural roads and bridges, et
Yeah,
cetera?
that was with Mr. Donaldson, yeah. Councilman Kai.
Put the motion forward?
Okay. Seconder, Councilor Kirby. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Budgeted capital project, recreation master plan. We have a recommendation there, but it's wrong. It should be 120,000. Second number there. Not 150. It should be 120. Did we get the recommendation? Kaka?
Council approves an increase in the recreation master plan budget from 85,000 to 120,000. And that the council directs administration to enter into an agreement with BDCM. And then for accepting approval, grant funds will not be 80,000. And the council directs administration to prepare a request for proposal to be approved by council prior to the public notice.
Seconder? Councilman Kai? Discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, take this schedule of meetings. Anything to add? Saying nothing? Notice motion. I'm gonna make a motion that council offers TRMF the amount of $50,000 to open the Dinosaur Discovery Gallery for 5 days a week from June 1st to October 1st, 2018. And that a referendum question be developed and forwarded to the May 14th PMP meeting. Councilor McKay seconded. Discussion.
Can you give me the dates again, sir, 2000, what dates, June what?
June 1st to October 1st.
And I'm sorry, what was the amount? It cut out.
50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Got that $50,000 figure from going through their budget and what the costs were for the front end staff and the leaders there.
Okay, and would that be 7 days a week?
About 5 days from June.
Oh, 5 days. Okay.
And that'd be at their discretion in 5 days.
Oh, okay. So not necessarily the weekend.
No.
Okay.
Councillor Kachaka?
Has this been discussed with TRO?
No, I've told them that I was thinking about doing this, and so they, yeah, Dr. Allen and Teresa both have know what's coming, or know that I'm trying to bring it.
And that works for them?
I have no, they never really commented. They'll update to the board, I would imagine.
Okay.
But I just thought it was sitting in limbo now. There's no offers coming from either side, so I thought this would give us something to offer. Any more discussion on it?
I have one more question. Who would be monitoring the days and the service that's being provided?
That'd be up to them to supply the people that sit in front there. I think part of we'd have to include a letter of what we expect, I guess, is doors are open and people can go through the dinosaur discovery gallery is what I think should happen for the summer until we get this, hopefully take it to a referendum, find out what the people at Tumbler Ridge want to do. Councillor Kirkconnell.
Thank you. What about lighting and stuff? That's all in, 50,000.
That's the number I.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to figure it out without having it beforehand to look at it and try to figure things out.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Council's business, anybody have anything they want to add? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I get into council's business, I have a question on the strategic plan timeline. Can I get an update from staff what's happening with the Share Shack and just all operations to be determined?
What's it?
With the Share Shack?
We don't have a timeline on that.
Is there, I know that it was supposed to be spring of 2018. Is there gonna be starting a build? I know was there a budgeted amount for it? And so do we know when, any idea?
We'll move on it as quickly as it falls into our construction schedule.
I met with Alex from Lotus Travel on the weekend. I have volunteered to accompany the group from Tumbler Ridge to Whitehorse, Yukon. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a good step, to, kind of help them along the way, since I have lived in the Yukon. And Alex is very eager to look at tourism from Tumbler Ridge and up the highway, and to grow that business. So I'm very excited to be a part of that, and wish me luck. Hope I get them there safely.
Yeah, I met with him too, and he's a very big thinker. He's these big things for Tumbler Ridge.
That's what you need.
Told him, excited you had to talk. That's about it, or did you have something?
Yeah, if I can go there.
Yeah.
So I sent an email to staff and council about a week ago. Had about 5 questions on it there. And one of the questions that we've asked was about our strategic priority that we had determined in the meeting we had earlier this year about our number 1 strategic priority would be to try to help with medical services and stuff in Tumbler Ridge and see what we could do to add to recruit and retain people in Tumbler Ridge. The answer that we got back from staff was that they didn't take that as our strategic priority. correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but that's, you guys didn't ever receive that from us, that we told you that that was our strategic priority.
So I'm asking the mayor, can we make that our strategic priority, or is that our strategic priority? I thought that's what we had discussed, and unfortunately, there's been a bit of a breakdown between us and staff. But rather than let it go any further, I think we need to let staff know that that was our number one thing, and we need to get that committee going with or without the people from the public, whether they wanted to get on or not. These meetings with the doctors and nurses and Northern Health and the other folks in the mental health issue, these meetings have to get started now. I mean, we're almost halfway through the year and our strategic priority, we haven't had one meeting on it yet. It's embarrassing for me as a counselor to say that's our strategic priority, we haven't done anything with it, so. I don't know how that
Breakdown happened, but I think that we need to have that discussion here and get that going.
I don't think we ever laid it out as our number one strategic plan, but I think as council, we talked about it, so. And I think we have had meetings, it's just so slow, especially at budget time, we gotta get through the budget first, and now it's approved, so now we should work on it. You're talking about the committee?
Yeah, just to have that meeting with all the people and find out, are we missing 2 nurses, and do we actually have 3 doctors, or there's so many rumors in town, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, and to get some solid numbers from them and say, okay, what are we trying to do, what can we do to help, right, so, and, like I say, if that hasn't been communicated to staff, then.
I can kind of wait because there's about 3 different Northern Health meetings in GLGA this year, and I plan on attending and finding out the direction to help us. I know Dawson Creek's the Health Society is struggled a little bit, but it's going now, and they're looking at actually buying a house so that they can have places for people if they go for
So our focus would be again on recruiting to Tumbler Ridge, would it not?
Well, yeah, that would be Northern Health's focus is recruiting to Tumbler
Yeah.
Ridge, and our focus would be to help them recruit to Tumbler Ridge.
And retention.
Yeah.
Retention as well, there's some good people
Yeah.
that need to be compensated and recognized for that if we want to keep them around, so.
So I think as soon as I get back here, I'll be pushing Wally and going on this committee
Can we commit to have a meeting in May, like to get this started, to have
The Northern Health and Dr. Helm and all
the people in here? I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate that you're gonna talk to the folks you're gonna talk to, but if we don't really understand what the problems are here, we've heard some stuff, but here we are 5-6 months later. It'd be good to get everybody in a room and say, this is how it's gonna work, and the mayor's off looking for this avenue, but what can we do now? Where can we get going here? So.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. I think we just did that, and we got a list of I think when we had Northern Health here and Dr. Helm and the nurses. So I thought that's what we did. We have a list of things that we got to do. So
Yeah, we're gonna get the
May's
committee
gonna
set
be
up.
tough. May's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
But I sure don't mind having a special meeting on it if that's what it takes.
And like, does it have to be set up as a special meeting, or could we not just have them come in, or is it because all councilors here, everybody, it has to be a
It's got to be.
special meeting that's
It's got to be announced, right?
Okay.
Mr. Wall.
So council's aware, administration's ready to go with this committee. We need to know who's supposed to be on it. Is who from council's on it? Is everybody from council on it and other people? That's the big piece left. The terms of reference are ready to go to the committee because the committee's gonna have to read through it and adopt their own terms of reference. So council needs to set who is in this committee because administration's not aware. And we've only, as I mentioned in that email, we've only had one person apply to be on the committee at this point.
What have we done to advertise it?
We put it out on our Facebook and we've also reached out to a number of people as well who we thought might be qualified for it.
We looked for somebody for the paid position. We approved the paid position. So that's got to be done first, as far as I'm concerned. But, Councilor Chuck.
Thanks, sorry on that. So I know we talked about it, I believe it was at a PNP when we discussed it, but it's Councilor Howe, Councilor McCulloch, and Mayor McPherson from council.
Okay.
And I know worship brought forward, I'm not saying, obviously it's a hiring process. But the previous person that used to sit on that task force, that was discussed at a meeting and everybody was agreed to that. So that's gotta be in minutes somewhere, because it was a motion.
But I agree with you, it's got to be put on top shelf. Council, Guy, do you have something?
Yeah, just, I mean, I guess just kind of a joke kind of pointed out there that, and saying with the councillor how there, I think it's something we should have a meeting on sooner rather than later. It has dragged on for quite a while, and as a council, we should probably decide, what are we offering? I mean, some communities go as far as showing up at graduation classes and interviewing right there and then, and having packages to give to prospective candidates to come to Tumble Ridge. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could be doing to coax people here.
I think we've even sent out some packages. Nurse that was here did have some people that were interested. I don't know where that went, but we gotta get the committee going first, is my view. And then, so, I guess our direction to staff is get on that.
So you want staff to hire the person, not the committee to hire the person?
Well, I think that's the way it starts, and then you build the committee around the person, which we are.
Okay.
Anything else? Question and answer period. Anything from you folks? Yes, we are closed. Favorite?